It's strange how a single sentence can shatter years of sacrifice. I spent the better part of a decade clawing my way out of debt, scraping through long shifts, and funneling every spare dollar into helping my mom pay off her massive $680,000 mortgage. I told myself it was worth it, that family loyalty mattered more than comfort, more than rest, more than my own future. But the day she looked me dead in the eyes and said, "Vanessa, the house was always meant to be a gift, just not for you," something inside me cracked in a way that can never be repaired. I used to believe that love, real love, meant giving without keeping score. For years, I lived by that belief, especially when it came to my mom. I grew up watching her struggle, working 2 jobs, skipping meals just to make sure my sister and I had enough. So when she bought her dream home later in life, I felt proud. But that pride slowly turned into fear once I realized how enormous her mortgage was. My mom had always been stubborn, insisting she could handle everything on her own. But the cracks showed quickly. Missed payments. Stress migraines. The constant dread of foreclosure. One night, she called me in tears, saying the bank had contacted her again. Without thinking, I promised I would help. I was 28 then. Working full-time as a dental hygienist. Picking up weekend shifts at a med spa. Doing freelance whitening kits on the side. I wasn't wealthy, but I was determined. I told myself that if I worked hard enough, long enough, I could help her breathe again. And I did. Every extra shift, every cancelled plan, every exhausted night, it all went straight toward her mortgage. Not once did I question it. Not once did I wonder whether someone else should have helped too. Especially my younger sister, Elise, who floated through life like it was her personal trampoline park. But Mom always coddled her, shielding her from responsibility, telling me not to pressure her. "Your sister isn't built like you," Mom would say. "She's softer." Somehow, that softness became a permanent excuse for Elise doing absolutely nothing. Meanwhile, I was drowning myself in responsibility to make up for both of us. 5 years passed. Payments chipped away slowly. I tracked every dollar, every milestone, until the day came when the balance dropped to 0. I cried, not because I was proud, but because I could finally rest. I could finally think about building my own life. Maybe even buying my own home someday. That night, Mom hugged me tighter than she had in years. "You're my rock," she whispered. "You saved us." Those words stayed with me. But they aged quickly. 2 months after the mortgage was cleared, I stopped by her house to help assemble some new furniture. Elise was already there, lounging on the couch with a smug expression I'd seen too many times. Mom seemed nervous, fluttering around the living room like she didn't know where to sit. Then she asked me to join them. "Vanessa," she began, "there's something I've been meaning to tell you." I expected gratitude. Maybe a small celebration. Maybe even an apology for the years of stress. Instead, she said casually, almost cheerfully, "I've decided to gift the house to Elise. It was always meant to be hers." For a moment, I genuinely thought I misheard. I paid off the mortgage. I saved Mom from foreclosure. I sacrificed years of my life. And she was giving the house, my hard work, to my sister? My hands went numb. Elise's smile widened. Mom kept talking like it was the most normal decision in the world. That was the moment something inside me shattered. I stared at my mother, waiting for her to laugh, to say it was a joke, to explain herself, anything. But she just kept smiling like she'd announced something thoughtful and wholesome, like she'd just told us she was donating old clothes or planting a garden. Not that she was handing over a fully paid off $680,000 home to the one person who had contributed absolutely nothing. "Elise is starting a new chapter," Mom continued. "She needs stability. A place of her own." My voice was barely more than a whisper. "And what do I get?" Mom blinked at me like the question confused her. "Vanessa, you already have your life together. You're responsible, financially secure, independent. You don't need the house." I felt my stomach twist. "I paid for the house." Mom frowned, the same frown she used when I was a kid and asked too many questions. "No, sweetie. I paid for the house. You just helped with the mortgage." "I paid the entire mortgage," I snapped. "Every payment for the last 5 years came from me." Elise rolled her eyes. God, Vanessa, are you really going to make this about money? I turned to her. Money? Elise, you have never paid a single bill in your life. She flipped her hair. Not my fault. Mom wants to support me. Something inside me burned. Support you? I supported all of you. I worked 70-hour weeks. I gave up vacations, relationships, a life. And you two act like I handed over pocket change? Mom sighed, giving me that disappointed look she reserved only for me, never for Elise. You're being dramatic. Families help each other. You should be happy for your sister. Happy? I felt my voice crack. You hid this from me. You let me pay off your house knowing you were going to give it to her. Mom shook her head. The house was always meant to go to the child who needed it most. Elise needs it. Then she softened her voice as if she were consoling a toddler. You don't. The words lit a fire under my skin. This wasn't just favoritism. This was theft. Deliberate, calculated theft, wrapped in motherly justification. Elise leaned back on the couch, smirking. Don't worry, Vanessa. You can visit. If I'm not busy. I couldn't breathe. I stood, grabbing my bag. My hands shook so violently I almost dropped it. Mom reached out as if I were the one being unreasonable. Where are you going? We're not done talking. Oh, we're done, I said. We are absolutely done. Mom's voice hardened instantly. If you walk out that door, that's on you. Don't blame me when you isolate yourself from this family. I turned slowly. You isolated me the moment you decided my years of work were worth less than Elise's comfort. The room went completely silent. For the first time, Elise looked uneasy. Mom looked furious. But me? I felt something I hadn't felt in years, clarity. I walked out without looking back and sat in my car, hands gripping the steering wheel. I expected tears. Or panic. Or regret. Instead, a cold, steady determination washed over me. Something wasn't adding up. Mom wasn't stupid, she knew exactly what she was doing. Elise wasn't subtle, she had been bragging about big changes for months. And something told me, this wasn't just favoritism. There was more. Much more. I wasn't sure what I'd find. But I knew one thing with absolute certainty. They were about to regret underestimating me. The drive home felt like floating through fog. My mind replayed my mother's words on a loop, each repetition cutting deeper. I had spent years believing that family meant sacrifice, loyalty, support, but suddenly it hit me, maybe my mother never saw me as the daughter she relied on. Maybe she saw me as the daughter she used. By the time I reached my apartment, the fog had lifted. Anger and clarity replaced shock. If Mom had truly believed the house belonged to Elise all along, she would have told me years ago. She wouldn't have let me shoulder the mortgage alone. She wouldn't have hidden her decision until the very end. There was something she wasn't saying. And if she wasn't going to tell me, I'd find out myself. I opened my laptop and logged into the joint account I had used solely to make the mortgage payments. Mom never touched the account, claiming she didn't like dealing with online portals. But when I checked the records, everything seemed normal, every payment listed under my name, every confirmation email addressed to me. Then something caught my eye. 6 months before the mortgage was fully paid, Mom had refinanced the loan, without telling me. A cold chill ran through me. I scrolled through the documents, heart pounding. The refinance had been approved under her name alone, but it referenced my income as the primary contributing factor. She had used my financial stability as leverage to secure better terms she didn't even need, considering I was making the payments. But that wasn't the worst part. The refinance included an addendum. A transfer on death clause. And the beneficiary? Elise Michaels. My sister. Mom had legally arranged the transfer 6 months before I finished paying off the mortgage. This wasn't spontaneous favoritism. It wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a plan, a long, calculated one. The room felt colder. My jaw clenched so tight my teeth hurt. Elise had known. She had to have known. That smug confidence earlier wasn't surprise, it was expectation. This was something they had discussed, something they felt entitled to. My phone buzzed on the counter. I glanced at it, Elise. I ignored it. A minute later, a text appeared. Elise, Mom said you overreacted. We need to talk. Another message. Elise, don't make things weird. You know the house suits me better. More came rapid fire. Elise, Mom didn't mean to hurt you. But this is what she wants. Elise, you're too independent to need the house anyway. Elise, be mature about this. Every sentence made my blood boil. I shoved the phone aside and kept digging. If they planned this, there would be more. I pulled up public property records. It didn't take long to find something that made me freeze. 2 weeks earlier, not 6 months ago, not years ago, just 2 weeks before the mortgage was cleared, my mom had filed initial documents to transfer the house into Elise's name. And the reason listed in the notes? Gift for daughter's upcoming engagement. Elise wasn't even dating anyone. At least, that's what I believed. Suddenly, pieces of the puzzle crashed together, the cryptic posts Elise had been making online, the hints Mom dropped about exciting changes, the smug expression Elise had worn today. She was seeing someone. Someone she didn't tell me about. Someone she planned to build a future with, using the house I paid for. I sank into my chair, feeling both sick and electrified. Mom wasn't giving Elise the house out of love. She was giving Elise the house because Elise wanted to get engaged, and she wanted a wedding gift. A wedding gift worth nearly $1 million. The floor of my world tilted. I wasn't supporting my mom. I was being used to give Elise the dream life she never worked for, never earned, never appreciated. And they assumed I would accept it quietly. Not this time. Not ever again. In that moment, I made a promise to myself. I would not let them take another thing from me. I didn't know how yet. But I knew this. They had started a war. And they had no idea who they were dealing with. The next morning, I woke up with a pounding headache, not from lack of sleep, but from the weight of betrayal pressing against my skull. I hadn't responded to Elise's messages. I hadn't spoken to Mom. I needed time to think. But the longer I sat in silence, the clearer my path became. If they wanted to play legal games, then I'd play better. First, I called a real estate attorney. I didn't tell them the whole story, just enough to get an appointment. When I ended the call, I felt strangely calm. I wasn't sure where this would lead, but I wasn't walking into battle unarmed. Around noon, my mom started calling. 3 times. Then 5. Then 7. Finally, a text. Mom, Vanessa, answer your phone. This isn't the way to handle things. I ignored it. A minute later. Mom, you're being childish. Elise is upset. Come talk to us. Upset? Elise was upset? I stood, grabbed my keys, and walked out the door. I didn't know what I was going to say, but I knew I needed answers, real ones. When I pulled into Mom's driveway, Elise's car was already there. Figures. She didn't have a job, so she had plenty of time to lounge around the house she assumed was hers. I walked in without knocking. Mom was at the kitchen table, hands clasped like she was praying. Elise leaned against the counter, arms crossed, wearing a smirk that made my blood pressure spike. Mom looked up first. Vanessa, thank God. We need to talk. Yeah, I said. We do. I didn't sit. Mom cleared her throat. I know yesterday was emotional, but you took it the wrong way. I wasn't trying to hurt you. You filed transfer paperwork, I said bluntly. 2 weeks ago. For Elise. Mom's face tightened. Elise shifted nervously. You went through my papers? Mom asked, offended. No, I said. Public records exist for a reason. Elise scoffed. Wow, you really dug into this like a psycho. Shut up, Elise, I said, my patience thinning. Her jaw dropped. Mom gasped. But I didn't care. Mom straightened. Vanessa, this is exactly why I didn't tell you sooner. You get too intense. You overreact. I overreact? I stepped forward. You used my income to refinance your house. You used my payments to build equity. And then you planned to hand it all to Elise without telling me. Mom sighed like she was the victim. Honey, I didn't use you. You offered to help. I offered to help you, I said, pointing at her. Not Elise. Not her boyfriend. Not her future wedding. You. Elise flinched. Mom's eyes widened. That slip told me everything. So she is getting engaged, I said. Elise's cheeks reddened. It's none of your business. I turned to Mom. That house was going to be their wedding gift, wasn't it? Mom rubbed her temples. Elise deserves a good start in life. She needs support. You don't. You keep saying I don't need anything. But maybe what I needed all along was a mother who treated me like her daughter, not her personal bank account. The room went still. Mom stood abruptly. Vanessa, you're blowing this out of proportion. Elise is the younger sibling. It's natural to give her a boost. You've always been the strong one. You can rebuild. She can't. There it is, I said quietly. You don't respect me. You don't appreciate me. You just expect me to fix everything. Mom slammed her hand on the table. And what if I do? You're the reliable one. You always have been. Her voice cracked then, softer, almost pleading. Vanessa, you have to understand. Elise isn't like you. I stared at her, really stared, and saw everything clearly for the first time, the excuses, the guilt-tripping, the manipulation disguised as maternal love. You're right, I said, my tone ice-cold. She isn't like me. She never will be. Elise rolled her eyes. We done now? I looked her dead in the eyes. Not even close. Mom stepped forward. Vanessa, please don't make this ugly. It already is, I said. And you made it that way. I turned toward the door. Mom called after me. Where are you going now? I didn't look back when I said, to fix the mistake I made 5 years ago. The next morning, I sat in a quiet legal office, hands folded tightly in my lap while the attorney skimmed through the stack of documents I'd brought. My stomach twisted with anxiety, but underneath it ran a steady thread of determination. I wasn't backing down, not this time. The attorney, a composed woman in her 40s with sharp eyes, finally set the papers aside. Let me make sure I understand, she said. You made every mortgage payment for the last 5 years. Your mother refinanced the loan using your income without your informed consent. And she intends to transfer the property as a gift to your younger sister. Yes, I said. Without telling me. Ever. She nodded slowly. And you have proof of the payments? All of it. I pulled out printed statements. Every single one. She scanned the pages. This is thorough. Very thorough. I swallowed. Is there anything I can do? Anything to stop the transfer? She leaned back, considering. Legally, you have no ownership because your name isn't on the deed. That complicates things. My heart sank, but she raised a hand. However, there is potential financial recourse. If you were induced into paying under false pretenses, and if we can prove she concealed her intentions, this could qualify as unjust enrichment. I blinked. Meaning? You may be able to sue for the full amount you paid. Potentially more. A slow, controlled breath escaped me. Sue my own mother. I never imagined those words would apply to my life. But here I was, pushed to the edge by the two people who should have protected me, not exploited me. The attorney continued, before going that route, there's also the option of filing a notice of interest on the property. It doesn't give you ownership, but it freezes the process. No transfer can be completed until the financial dispute is resolved. A pause. In other words, she said, it stops your sister from taking the house. I felt something inside me shift, a spark returning to life. I want to do that, I said. Immediately. She smiled faintly. I thought you might. We filled out the paperwork together. I signed where she pointed. By the end of the meeting, the path was set. Elise wouldn't be getting her dream house anytime soon. As I left the office, my phone lit up again with messages from Mom and Elise. Dozens of them. I ignored every one. I wasn't in the mood for manipulation, guilt-tripping, or Elise's condescending lectures on being mature. That evening, it started. "Mom, Vanessa, what did you do?" The title office called me. "Mom, this is unnecessary. Remove it." "Elise, what the hell? Are you serious? Elise, you're ruining everything. Elise, you can't do this." "Mom, Vanessa, this is your family. Stop being spiteful." I tossed my phone onto the couch and kept cooking dinner. For once, their panic didn't control me. It didn't drain me. It didn't guilt me. It felt like justice. An hour later, Mom showed up at my door, pounding like she intended to break it down. "Vanessa. Open this door right now." I didn't. She kept banging. "You are being cruel. That house was supposed to be Elisa's. You're sabotaging your own sister." My voice was calm when I finally answered through the door. "Mom, I'm protecting myself. Something you never did. You can't take this to court," she snapped. "People will think we're a broken family." "We are," I said simply. She sucked in a sharp breath. "Is this really about money?" "No," I said. "It's about respect. About honesty. About how you treated me." Mom lowered her voice. "Vanessa, if you do this, we may never recover." That hurt, but not enough to stop me. "I didn't break this family," I said. "You did." There was silence on the other side of the door. Then footsteps. Then nothing. I exhaled shakily. The next morning, Elise sent one more message. "Elise, you'll regret this. Mom and I won't forgive you." For the first time in my life, I read her words, and felt nothing. No guilt. No fear. No obligation. Just freedom. And a sense that the fight wasn't over, not yet. But for once, I wasn't scared of the ending. I was ready for it. 2 days passed before the next storm hit. I was walking into my apartment building when a familiar voice called out behind me, sharp, entitled, and dripping with attitude. "Vanessa. Stop." I closed my eyes briefly before turning. Elise stood there, dressed in an outfit so expensive it made my stomach twist. Not because she wore it, but because I knew exactly where Mom got the money. "Elise," I said flatly. "What do you want?" She marched closer, heels clicking like she was the main character of a drama she created. "Let's get one thing straight," she snapped. "You're not going to ruin my life because you're jealous." I blinked. "Jealous?" "Yes," she said, tossing her hair. "You've always hated that Mom loved me more. You pretended to be the good daughter, helping with bills, acting responsible, but deep down, you were just waiting for everyone to praise you." I stared at her, stunned. "You think I paid $680,000 for praise?" "You paid it because you had nothing else going on," she shot back. "Your job, your boring routine, your empty apartment, paying off Mom's house made you feel important." The venom in her tone was shocking, even for Elise. "And now," she continued, "you can't stand that the house was meant to help me start a family. You can't stand that someone loves me. Someone loves you enough to let you manipulate an entire family?" I said. She faltered for just a second, enough to confirm what I already suspected. The boyfriend, fiancé, whoever he was, wasn't in it for love. "Elise," I said quietly, "did Mom tell him the house was mine? Or did she pretend she paid for it?" That flicker of guilt in her eyes? That was my answer. "And when were you planning to tell me?" I asked. "At your engagement party? At your wedding? Or were you hoping I'd find out when you two changed the locks?" She snapped, "You don't deserve that house." I felt something inside me harden, not anger, not sadness, something sharper. "You're right," I said. Elise blinked, thrown off. "I don't deserve that house," I continued. "I deserve far better than that house. Better than what Mom gave me. Better than what this family has put me through." Her face twisted with confusion. I took a step toward her. "You and Mom made one mistake. You both thought I would break. You thought guilt would shut me up. You thought obligation would keep me controlled. But you're wrong." Elise's chin lifted. "The judge won't side with you. Mom is the owner. And I'm the one who paid," I said. Judges care about evidence. And I have 5 years of it. Her lips tightened. I took out my phone and pulled up the final notice from the attorney. The filing had gone through. The property was legally frozen until the dispute was resolved. I held it up. This means you can't touch the house. Not for months. Maybe years. Elise's mouth fell open. You can't do this to me. You did this to yourself, I said. You and Mom both. Her eyes filled with angry tears. If you go through with this, we're done. I'll never speak to you again. I felt an unexpected peace settle over me. Then this will be the healthiest decision I've ever made. She stared at me like she didn't recognize me. Like she expected the old Vanessa, the one who apologized first, backed down first, gave in first, to magically reappear. But that version of me was gone. Tell Mom, I said, she can speak to my lawyer from now on. Elise shook her head slowly. I hope you're happy. I'm finally getting there, I said. And with that, I walked away, each step lifting a weight I'd carried for years. 2 hours later, Mom texted me. Mom, I'm disappointed in you. I looked at the message for a long moment. Then I deleted it. Not the text. The entire thread. 5 years of messages. 5 years of stress. 5 years of trying to be enough. Gone. I wasn't losing a family. I was letting go of a burden. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't scared of what came next. I was hopeful. Sometimes family doesn't break you in dramatic moments, they break you slowly, quietly, by taking and taking until you forget you're allowed to say no. But the moment you finally choose yourself, everything changes. I spent years believing love meant sacrifice, that being the strong one meant carrying everyone else. But strength also means letting go, drawing boundaries, demanding respect. And if you've ever been the one holding everything together, maybe it's time to hold yourself instead. Because sometimes, walking away is the real act of healing.